Well, hello everyone, and welcome to Perfect Tips for Perfect Success. Today is going to be a very interesting conversation. I've traveled across the seas again, and I'm talking to one of our Caribbean sisters, Renee Lindo. Came across her on LinkedIn and saw what she does for a business. And I thought, how interesting. There must be a real good story there. So I approached Renee, introduced myself, and asked her if she'd be willing to do an interview. I'll let Renee introduce yourself and just tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do.
Sure. Hi, I am Renee Lindo, and I guide women on their style journeys from confused and overwhelmed to confident and killing it, right? So really helping women to leverage their style so that they show up feeling good, looking good, and so they can put their hand up for more. Yeah, that's me in a nutshell. So it's really about aligning your image with your personal brand. That's what I spend a lot of time doing, whether it's a professional or somebody who's an entrepreneur. It's really about, those first impressions and being able to use your clothing, which is our biggest communication tool, using our clothing to really communicate who we are and our story, and of course, our business.
Renee, that's very interesting. I want to take a look back. What's been your background and your professional path? How did you get to this point?
Yes, so very unconventional, I must say. So I grew up in Jamaica, went to school, and you grow up in the Caribbean, and doctor, lawyer, accountant, some type of profession, right? So I've always loved fashion and style. It's something I did with my mom growing up. I always went to fashion shows and contests, but I just never knew that this could be a business, that anybody would pay you to help them to get dressed, to help them to shop and to look good and feel good. But anyway, I went to university, worked, built my career in pharmaceutical sales. So I'm actually was a pharmaceutical sales leader, national sales director. Started my career in the US, was a country manager in the Caribbean, and most recently in Canada, where I led a sales team across Canada, launched products, coached reps. And I just realized that, when I looked good and felt good, it gave me the confidence to show up bigger, to put my hand up for more, to better for myself, to ask for the promotion. And I said, this is, if I could help women, or I should say there were no other women at my level in my company. And I said, if I could help women to really own all of their greatness, to feel confident, to step up, to put their hand up for more, using what I know, being able to marry my corporate skills with my love for fashion and style, that is something that I would really love to do. And it's something that I've been doing from university. Even before that, I studied with my mom, but university, I helped my friends get ready to go out. Even my direct reports, as most recently as being in my sales leadership role, I would take shopping to try to help them put their wardrobes together so that they could feel confident and show up well. And I said, you know what? And what I must say is that my role, even though I had been successful, I had worked all these years, climbed to the top of my mountain, really worked hard, really delivered, was very successful. When I reached the top, I looked around and I said, oh my goodness, I'm at the top of this mountain, but it's the wrong mountain, right? This is not where I want to be. This is not what brings me joy. This is really not what I think I could be doing more. I could be playing bigger. I could be really pouring into women at a higher level. And I said, this is what I want to do. So I decided to, and I think the driver for me really was the fact that I really did not enjoy my job anymore. On Sundays was terrible in my house because I have children, and it was yelling, and I was just miserable because the next day was work, all of that anxiety, right? When Friday got here, I was excited it was Friday because there was no work. Saturday was okay, but by midday Saturday, I started to get, the depression started to set in. And then Sunday for sure was, don't talk to me. And I said, I didn't want my children to just remember mom always yelling. I mean, I'm still yelling, but it's not because sometimes they drive me nuts. But it's not about my job and my career. So I really wanted to really control my time. I wanted to be able to control the decisions I made, control how I show up, and use my gifts, what I think are my God-given talents and gifts, use them to help others. And so here I am. And so I launched my business, Let's Get Dressed Now. And I work with women one-on-one to help as they're progressing their careers, and they know they need to show up differently, look differently, feel differently to really get the respect and their to be able to show their expertise. I feel that confidence. And I also work with corporate clients as well. So there you have it.
Now whenever we get to that realization point that, hey, I've arrived here, and you look around and it's not quite what I thought it was, and I'm not quite happy. That realization hits hard. And even when you realize that and you're making a conscious decision, there's always that, is this the right thing to do?
Absolutely.
What will this be like? How did you navigate that inside tugging about moving from knowing where that paycheck was coming from and then going so unconventional? Because it is a bit unconventional.
Absolutely. So it was a very tough decision. It wasn't something that I just decided one day. I mean, it was over a long time. I mean, over a year or two, I just was not happy in my job. But in my mind, as you mentioned, you know, I am up here in my job, a very senior, a very high level, and to know that anything else that I would venture or try to do, I'd have to basically start over. And I really was not prepared to do that at the time. I said, you know, there's just no way. This is what I know. This is what I'm good at. I mean, how do I replace all of this? But it just gets to a point in life where you say, okay, so I'm successful and I have a good income, but there has to be more to life, right? There has to be more. You get there and you're like, okay, so what else? And so it was over a long time of just being very unhappy, you know, having discussions with my husband about how is this going to play out for us, really? And luckily, he was very supportive of my decision. And I think what also helped me, there was a lot of anxiety because you don't know if you're making the right decision, right? There are no guarantees in life. You never know if you leave what you have and you step out into the unknown, what does that mean? But you know, there are a few things. First of all, I have a very strong faith, and I lean on that. And I prayed hard. I prayed fervently over this decision. And then I said, you know what, I believe this is truly my gift. This is truly what I want. I'm here to do. Because, you know, sometimes in leadership, you go through all this training, and some of the questions they'd ask, and I always remember they'd say, you know, if there was something that you could do that, you know, you couldn't fail, or where money didn't matter, what would it be? And I always came back that it was going to be something in fashion and style, something with style. I've always enjoyed that. And so the other thing, so one was my faith, and the other part was that I have always been successful. Not to brag, but just to say that I was going to bet on me. I've had some of the prerequisites, right? I've led a sales team. I'm a hard worker. I am resilient. So all of those skills that you develop throughout your career that are important for you to do your career role, your corporate role, you know, they are transferable, right? And so something that I've learned now as I've been on this process is that when we start something new, we're not starting over necessarily from ground zero or from scratch. We are starting from where we are, right? So we bring all of those skills, we bring all of that expertise with us, and we're just, I'm not going to say pivot, and we're just putting it in a new forum. And so that was really it for me. It was a tough decision, but I relied on my faith, and I betted on myself.
You know, the corporate setting, sometimes women may say is so unfair or it's so uneven. Yeah. And women face a lot of obstacles that men don't. Does anybody look at a man's suit and parlay that into his capacity for work? Right. Or look at his shoes, or look at his belt, or look at his hairstyle and parlay that into his ability to do a job? And so they may say, but isn't what you do playing into a stereotype, you know? I mean, helping women to dress and look powerful and capable. You know, how do you respond to that?
Sure.
That it's, you know?
Yeah, so definitely men are judged differently. Men aren't judged by just how they look, right? Women, the double standard exists. And so my role, it isn't really not just about the clothing, right? Well, it is more about how we feel when we wear the clothes, right? So it is, you know, somebody can wear a suit and put it on and it means nothing to them. But when you ascribe a certain feeling, you ascribe certain emotions to this particular clothing, and data supports this. And a study done called Enclothed Cognition that really speaks to that, speaks to the energy that the clothing gives us. So it's the fact that, you know, so I help women to not just dress up and buy pretty clothes, but to really think about who are they? How do they want to show up in this world? What are they trying to communicate? What are their values? What is their brand? And then we use the clothing to support and align that. So everything I talk about and what I'm not, as I work with clients, is data driven. It's not just stuff that I think of on my own, but data tells us that first impressions, first 7 seconds, people make a decision about you. It only takes 7 seconds. And what are people deciding? There are 4 main things. If they're thinking, are you trustworthy? Are you competent? Are you confident? And are you likable? And those are 4 pretty major things for folks to be making a decision about you right away. And the other thing that's important to note that ties into how you show up is that nonverbal cues are 4 times more impactful than anything that we can say, right? And our communication, 55% of our communication is nonverbal. So all of that, so it's not just about putting on the clothes. That is actually the last part of my process. It's more about understanding who you are, how you want to show up, and using your style and your clothes as a tool.
You know, I'm smiling hard and affirming because I do communications and I do communications trainings. And one of the things I always tell people is you have a brand, your business has a brand, your organization has a brand. And from the way you dress, the way you comb your hair or wear your hair, the jewelry you choose to wear, the types of shoes you like, that's all a part of your brand. And people read into it. You know, from the very dress you wear, people start assuming and making decisions about who they think you are and how they're going to be able to relate to you. And the statistic or the data of 55% of communication is nonverbal is something I tell people all the time, you know. So whether you're leaning into my conversation or you're slouching back or you're wide-eyed or everything about how you communicate, how you use your hands, the look on your face as you speak, all of those things are sending a message. So I'm smiling and affirming. And I hear you when you say that people look at you and make these decisions in 7 seconds. And I wanted to ask you, from your personal experience as a successful, powerful corporate woman that had reached the top of her ladder, what were some of the perceptions or some of the comments you received with your dress style that even affirmed more that this was something you needed to look into as your own business?
Well, so I was a sales leader. So sometimes I would take reps to visit doctors' offices and pharmacists, right? And I just knew, it's just a feeling that you have. So when I walked in, they knew right away I was the manager, even though the people I was in charge of or leading were older than I was, right? They knew I was the manager just by how I was dressed, how I carried myself, the way I walked, I had my shoulders back. So the other person gets all of these vibes from you as well, right? The person who you're communicating with, they get the vibes. And if they feel that, you know, maybe you're not as confident or you don't know really what you're talking about, you don't get the benefit of the doubt. You don't get the benefit of it. And I know many times that I've gotten the benefit of the doubt just by how I showed up. Now, after you get that, you better know what you're talking about, because in the conversation, but to not even have the door open, to not even to extend that opportunity is a huge, it's a big deal. We spend all this time creating like marketing assets and marketing tools, making sure our resume is all fine and beautiful, right? And then, or if we're an entrepreneur, all of our marketing assets or LinkedIn or market or promo stuff, you want them to all be nice and fancy. And then when the people meet you and you show up, you look completely different from what they expect from the resume, right? The resume is glossy, beautiful, all your words, all the keywords, everything that they're telling you to be the resume. And when you show up, you look different. People are confused. They're like, wait a minute. If I invest in this person, whether if I hire them, if I buy from their business, am I getting what this resume says and their marketing assets? Or am I going to get this person who's in front of me? I'm not quite sure. And you know, a confused mind does not buy. A confused mind says no. They're like, I don't really know what I'm going to get. I'm not going to waste my money. So before you can dazzle me with your wits, before I know all of that, I see you, right? And when I see you, I'm going to decide if I'm even going to give it an opportunity. I'm going to decide if I'm even going to open that door, extend this offer. And so it's important that, you know, and that the way you look really just shortens that know, like, and trust time, right? When people say, yes, this is what her resume says, this is what her marketing says, and she looks like this is exactly what I'm going to get. People are much more likely to invest and buy when everything is aligned, when they feel that they know what they're getting.
So let's take a peek into this now. Your client, myself, another woman, a male, comes to you and said, okay, I want to dive into this thing. I want you to help me. Where do you start?
There's a difference between being trendy and being current. And I'm not talking about being trendy, I'm talking about being current. When you show up and when you're not dressed current, people assume your skills are also not current, right? If you look dated, if you if you look dated, they assume that your skills are also lacking and dated. So it's important that it is current. So when I work with clients, and so a client is on board, the first thing that we do is really get clear, right? I have this thing called your style story. I won't go into that, but it's a process that a framework I take people through. But the first step really is to get clear on who you are and how you want to show up, how you want people to receive you, and what you're communicating. We talk about your style words, we talk about all of those things to really get a good understanding of how you want to move through this world. We start there.
So, you know, earlier we talked about the double standard for females, and how that affects you in the workplace, and how you can try to overcome some of that with armoring how you dress. There's also the issue of navigating corporate culture, corporate expectations with personal likes, or personal values. This the go natural look that women have of our Afro background have been gravitating towards more now. We've seen more women walk away from the straightening their hair and preferring to wear their curls, or wanting to wear their braids and their locks. The ethnic jewelry. How do you help a female client navigate that? Or how do you help a corporate setting navigate that in terms of dress and the perceptions that come with dress and the culture that maybe an organization is trying to establish? So there are two things there: the individual being able to align what those expectations and workplace demands are, and then also the workplace to be more conscious and open to those personal and value preferences.
So it can be tricky, right? Because for you to show up as your best and to the 100, you want to be able to bring your entire self to work. You want, if you're comfortable and if you feel good and if you're feeling confident when you are wearing your natural hair, you're wearing the pieces that you like, you know, it's really something that needs a discussion that needs to be had with your corporation. If you get a lot of pushback from that corporation, then it's really an opportunity for you to think about, okay, if this corporation is not willing to allow me to bring all of me, is this really a place where I want to be? Is this a place where I'm going to be able to flourish and grow and bring all my gifts and talents? Because I'm telling you, when you can be your authentic self and when you can show up 100% as you. That is where your power is. That is where you're allowed to, all of your creativity flows. You're feeling good. You're in your zone, and you're really able to contribute. So it really becomes a conversation of, are you willing to not bring that to the table and leave that behind? Or are you saying, are you going to say, you know what, this is me, this is how I want to show up, and do so, and then see how corporate responds.
There must be a story that stands out in your interaction with your clients that really affirms, either because it was challenging for you to navigate or because it just had a bang on result. Tell me about that.
Sure. So it was a recent client. So young, I think early 30s, and she was on maternity leave, but she knew that when she was going back to work, she was going to go back into more of a executive leadership role. And so we worked on her wardrobe with that in mind, that is really that's the role that she's stepping into. So she needed to show up differently. She's going to be pitching deals to clients. She's also going to need to have some internal reports. So she really needed to show up with presence and impact. And so when we went through the whole sessions, and we had the client sessions, got her outfits together. And I think the last sessions I had with her, she told me, she says, yeah, I got another job. She didn't even go back to the job after the maternity leave. She was confident in how she looked and felt. She went to another company, got a higher role. And I was like, oh my goodness. She says, yes, I feel amazing. Now I'm confident that when I walk into these rooms and when I'm pitching for new business, that I can get it, and that I'm worthy, and I am supposed to be here. So those types of stories, and I have those types of testimonials from clients all the time, which I'm so grateful for. Really, really cements in my mind and really lets me know that the work that I am doing is important, and it makes a difference.
The work can be a bit unfair in terms of those judgments. You can walk away feeling like, oh, I really didn't get a fair shake here. And so it's good to be conscious of what people think and the processes that people go and the matchups that are being made about you in those first 7 seconds, as you say. So I'd like to close the conversation by giving you an opportunity to tell people how they can reach you, no matter where they're at, where you're available, and to get the benefit of your services.
Exactly. Yeah. So my playground is LinkedIn. I love that platform. It's with professional women and men, and the conversations are really, I learn so much and grow. So I'm on LinkedIn. My name, so it's linkedin.com/IN/Renee Lindo. That's RENEE LINDO. So you can always catch me there. I'm very active on LinkedIn, post content almost daily. And I'm also on Instagram under my company, and that's Let's Get Dressed Now. So, and I have my website as well, letsgetdressednow.com. But LinkedIn and Instagram are really the places where you can find me and catch me.
Well, Renee, this was an interesting chat indeed. I've learned a lot as well, just in the short time that we spent together. So I want to encourage you all, reach out to Renee. Indeed, there's a lot being decided about you in the first seconds, just 7 seconds looking at what you wear. The matchups that are being made about you can open the door or close the door. So you want to walk confident, dress confident, speak confident. You want the entire package. So show up on time, but show up dressed right. So thank you, Renee.
Thanks, Deirdre. Thank you so much for having me. Yes, thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.